Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another edition of AIW's The Card is Going to Change. Before we get into this week's special episode, we want to, of course, thank our sponsors that help us bring it to you for free each and every week on whichever platform you choose to listen. Thanks to Angelo's Pizza. Angelo's takes care of us. They bring pizza to all of our events so that you can try it out and buy it. And then, of course, if you want to try more than just their award-winning pizza, head to Angelo's on Madison Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio. It's a very romantic spot, I've heard from one Derek director. Also, thanks to Pollyanna DIY. They make all sorts of customized memorabilia and have plenty of awesome throwback stuff as well. Check them out, Pollyanna DIY. And thanks to Smart Mark Video for recording all of our live events. They are there, so if you can't make it, you can feel like you still are, whether you purchase it on DVD or download it for digital purposes after the fact. Check out smartmarkvideo.com for all AIW shows, as well as smvod.com, and get it on demand with some replays. And speaking of downloads and streaming, thanks to independentwrestling.tv. Sign up now using code ABSOLUTE. Get a 20-day free trial, and you can watch plenty of shows from the AIW archives that are constantly rotating, as well as plenty of other independent wrestling promotions. That's independentwrestling.tv. Code ABSOLUTE, and get your 20-day free trial. And with that, we get into today's episode. As we sit here, we are recording. It is the day of Wrestle Rager 4. We're sitting inside an empty Now That's Class that will later, in just a few short hours, be jam-packed with our sold-out crowd. I'm joined by AIW owner John Thorne.
Hello.
My name is Steve Guy, your moderator of sorts, and usually I say our names last, but I think that our guest today deserves...
Special guest this week.
He deserves the final introduction.
Legend.
We welcome the legend, Bill Alfonso. You know him maybe better as Fonzie.
Welcome to the show, Daddy.
Hey, Daddy, listen, I'm a legend in my own mind, so don't be calling me a legend, brother. I'm happy to be here. Hey, how the fuck did you remember all that shit without reading? You're fucking great, man.
You thought I had it on the screen here, didn't you?
It was going so smooth, man.
Oh, we do this every single week.
Yeah. I just roll through it.
I love it. You guys are my kind of guys.
Well, welcome aboard. I think...
Wait a minute. If it's not Vince McMahon or my daughter, I won't answer it. Nope. Okay, sorry.
After we brought you in for the special appearance at Absolution a couple weeks ago, we ended up having such a great time. I think you talked your way into a full-time contract the other day.
Well, thank you very much. I had a fantastic time here, man, and I am thrilled to have you guys ask me back. And I love the company. It reminds me of a young ECW. Well, not a young ECW. It reminds me of an established ECW getting at the early stages and progressing. You guys, your whole crew is nice. They treat me like a superstar, and it's just fantastic. And everybody's talking about tonight. It's the third annual show. It's going to be big. If you haven't been to this next year, you better buy a ticket because it sells out instantly.
Yeah, we're very excited, and we wanted to have you on the podcast because, as we were having a couple cocktails after the show a few weeks ago.
Oh, you're talking about the legendary stories. Okay, go ahead.
I found myself almost in a personal shoot interview with Fonzie as we just discussed the various things throughout your career. And, I was like, man, this guy needs to write a book with all the, with the great career that you've had. I guess we'll just start it off. How did you even get involved in the wrestling business?
Well, I was just like you guys. I was a big fan growing up. And how I got to be a big fan is my dad was a friend of the sports editor for the Tampa Tribune, and they used to write the results and the ad for who's going to wrestle on Tuesday nights in Tampa. And it was Dusty Rhodes and Eddie Graham and the great Malenko, Dean Malenko's dad. And so my dad came home with 2 comp tickets from the sports editor because they used to comp him 2 tickets for writing the articles, plus They paid him and stuff. And my dad came home with 2 tickets. He said, hey, Billy, I have tickets for wrestling. I said, wrestling? What's that, Dad? I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't even interested. So they said, this was like on a Friday. So they sat on the fireplace all weekend. Tuesday rolled around. So curiosity got me. So I said, let me take my buddy. So me and my buddy went, and I fell in love with it. There was Bobby Shane, who got killed in an airplane. God bless him. Eddie Graham, great Malenko, as I said. And man, I just fell in love with the business that day. That's what I wanted to do when I grew up. But unfortunately, I grew up to be 155 pounds. Maybe it was fortunate because I had a long career. If I would have been a wrestler, I might have had a 10-year career and went out with back problems. And you know how the guys all got plastic hips and limp at the conventions and shit. But fell in love with it, wanted to be a wrestler, couldn't make the weight. So the next best thing, I didn't think of this. King Curtis and Rocky Johnson said, "You'd make a great referee. You love the business. You're going to make us look big. You're hyper." So I broke in as a referee. I was very lucky. I went to The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson, and King Curtis send me and my buddy out to Dallas, Texas to work. And Gary Hart was the booker.
For World Class?
Yep, right at the Sportatorium. The Von Erichs, all those guys, Fritz Von Erich, David, all those guys. Bronco Lubitsch was a referee. So, but they already were established. They had all the referees, but I was just trying to. So I went out there for 6 months, and I refereed like 4 times in 6 months. I was there with my buddy David Cannell, the Cuban assassin David Sierra. And he was paying my way, and hopefully I was going to get a full-time job. But unfortunately, they had David Manning, Bronco Lubitsch, and actually there was 4 territories in Texas. It was Joe Blanchard, San Antonio, the Funks in Amarillo, Paul Boss, who just ran Houston, and the Von Erichs. So in those 4, and they interacted with everybody. They would switch talents, and there was 4 different TVs. So the 6 months I was there, I worked 4 times, but I worked for the Funks, I worked for Blanchard, I worked for Paul Bosch, and I worked for the Von Erichs. Just as like if one guy got a flat tire, got sick or whatever.
You were there.
I was there, and they used me. I was getting cokes, helping with the ring, anything I can do to be involved in the business. I was backstage learning and listening. So I said, after 6 months, I said to Dave, to Cuban Assassin, I said, "Man, thank you so much for taking care of me for these, but I can't get a full-time job. I got to go home and do something, get a real job." And Paul Jones, who just recently passed away, number 1 small Paul Jones from the Carolinas, really nice guy. He said, Fonzie, Jerry Briscoe is a real good friend of mine. I heard you're leaving. He said, when you go back to Florida, why don't you call Jerry up and, see if you can get a meeting with him and tell him you just moved back there and you were on the road here with us and you worked for Blanchard and Funks.
You built a nice resume up in those couple months.
Small resume, but the names were really good.
Yeah.
But I never said I only worked 1 time for this guy, 1 time for that guy. Right. I just said, hey, I worked for the Funks, I worked for this guy and that guy. So I did. Now, this is my childhood. I grew up in Tampa, and now I'm watching these guys wrestle every Tuesday night. I didn't miss a Tuesday for years. Right. I was really into it, and I became friends with a lot of. So I felt intimidated going to the Sportatorium to talk to Jerry Briscoe. So, but I did. I dressed up nice and said, "Well, Jerry, Paul Jones." Oh, Paul Jones. So, he sent me. He told me to check in with you to, I'm here if you can ever use me. He said, "Well, unfortunately, Fonzie, we got this guy, that guy. The referee's full, but leave your name with the guy downstairs, Charlie Lay. And if something comes up, we'll call you and we'll use you. You got a little resume." So it was a Monday night. They ran West Palm on a Monday, Tampa Tuesday, Miami Wednesday, Jacksonville Thursday, a spot show Friday, spot show Saturday, and Orlando Sunday. Year-round, 7 days a week. No days off, 365 days a year. So it was West Palm, and the referee, I don't know who it was some guy, and he had the 3 main events, the main event, the semi-main event, and the third, top 3 matches in his car. And they were going to West Palm. It's a 200-mile drive. Halfway there, like in Alligator Alley, he had a flat tire with no fucking spare.
Oh, wow.
They missed the show.
Wow.
Dusty was fucking mad. He fired him instantly. I get a phone call the next morning.
Wow.
"Hey, kid, this is Charlie Lay." He talked like this. "Hey, kid, this is Charlie Lay from the wrestling office. Dusty wants to know if we can come down and referee tonight." I said, "Yes, sir. No problem." I had size 12 boots. I wear 10. I wear a medium shirt. I had a double X. So I look, big clothes. I walk in. But I did a hell of a job that night. And they said, "Hey, can you make Wednesday in Miami?" I said, "Yes, sir." So I made Wednesday. "Can you make every night?" They would say, "Can you work the next night?" I said, yes, can you work the next night? So it got to Sunday to Orlando, and they said, congratulations, you got a full-time job.
Wow.
And I've had a full-time job since May of 1980 for 20 years I worked for Florida Wrestling, Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett, TBS, the Superstation before it was TBS.
Right.
It was a Superstation Channel 17.
Yeah.
Then I went to WCW, same company, different name. Then I went to Vince. Then I went to ECW. Now I'm here in AIW, where it's happening, Daddy. And I love it. Thank you, Justice. Thank you, John. And thank you, Steve.
No problem. You know, one of the things that I found interesting when we were talking the other day is you kind of worked your way up to working almost directly with Dusty Rhodes, and you know he was giving you the finishes and things like that, which you know for a guy that went from being just the guy hoping to get a job to work your way all the way up the ladder, that I found that pretty impressive. What was the evolution of your relationship with Dusty?
After a while, I told Dusty, I said, Dusty, I wish you were my father. I loved him that much. And that was a true statement. I wish my dad had passed away. I said, Dusty, I wish you were my father. He said, son, I am your father. And we became closer that day. What got me over is I had to learn. I was like a sponge. Now, if you weren't able to perform, if you weren't good, there's 10 other guys that can take your job.
Right.
You better fucking be good.
Especially in those days.
One time Dusty was in the main event. I'll tell you the rest of that story. Dusty was something that so Dusty was in the main event with what's his name? The Missing Link, Dewey Robinson.
Yes.
So he was in the main event with it was it wasn't Dewey. It was I'll think of the name in a second. But anyway, the finish was Dusty makes his big comeback, boom, boom, boom. The guy takes a powder, goes under the ring. When Dusty starts stomping his feet and go clapping, he comes out and they go to the finish, 1, 2, 3. So Dusty starts stomping his feet. The guy don't come out. He fucks the finish up. They had to play ad lib it. Dusty was livid. I go back to the dressing room and said, what the fuck happened? Did you give him the finish? I said, Dusty, I gave him did you give it? I said, I could give it to you backwards, Dusty. It was all him. He fired him on the spot.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, but I was so good at carrying, because the heels and the baby faces were in two different dressing rooms all the time.
Right.
If you got caught riding with a heel and a baby face, that was almost fire. You get fired or get reprimanded. That didn't happen. It was really kayfabe. Not like today. Today's a little more social media, a little more accepted. Vince, sports entertainment, and so on and so on. But back in the day, we protected. If somebody said, hey, wrestling's fake, I'd almost get in a fight with that motherfucker. Right. Can I cuss?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
See, I don't cuss, but sometimes it slips out. But if you got caught riding with somebody, that's terms for fire or reprimanded or... so the heels and the babies were in different... So at Dusty was real punctual. That's why I'm punctual. That's why I'm always on time. I do my job. So I'd get to the arena at 7 o'clock. I'd go right to Dusty. He was the booker. I have my pencil or the card, and Dusty say, okay, here's at 7:15, he gave me all the finishes, a lot of high spots, a lot of stuff to take over. So after a while, I would go take 3 matches over and come back and get 3 more. But after a while, I would take 4 matches. After a while, I would take 5. After a while, I could take 7 matches, 7 finishes, 7 all kind of high spots, and remember every fucking detail. I was known worldwide, nationally for being a good finish man and remembering. And a lot of guys come up to me today and say, oh, Fonzie, thank you, like Adrian Street, the gimmick. Yeah. Adrian. I see him at conventions. Fonzie, I would have never made it if it wasn't for you. You helped me in the ring, carry the, tell me what to do. And that happened a lot with Lex Luger, a lot of guys. So I would carry finishes over, and I just, it was like a sponge. And if you didn't absorb it, they'd get another guy.
They'd find somebody else.
They'd find somebody else. And luckily enough, my mind was fresh and no concussions. I could remember stuff. And so, and plus I was a hell of a referee.
You mentioned something, a name right there, and I have to ask it. You refereed the infamous Bruiser Brody Lex Luger incident.
This is the War Memorial in Fort Lauderdale.
So what's going through your head when you're in there and you're seeing this whole thing unfold?
It didn't faze me that much because I could see it coming. I knew something was coming, but I didn't know Luger was going to jump out of the cage and split. It was bad booking. Frank Goodish, Bruiser Brody, notorious for being a superstar and hardcore. He was hardcore back then.
Right.
But he's notorious for not being so suave and getting along with the promoters. He'd shake the boat a little bit. Not in a bad way, but not in a good way. Promoters would be afraid of
standoffish.
Yeah, a little standoffish, and Bruiser Brody, but he's gonna draw. So they weigh it out and they bring him in. So it was a bad booking. The office shouldn't have put Lex Luger and Bruiser Brody in there without going over and talking to them both and getting them both in the dressing room and say, "Hey, do you mind, Brody, to put the kid over a little bit?" And then you beat him, of course, because Lex Luger was got hand-picked opponents, and he was Hiro Matsuda's creation, and I was in the dressing room when they named them. It was Dusty, Mike Graham, Hiro Matsuda. They were trying to come up with a name for Lex Luger, and somebody said, fucking 357, Winchester, Luger, Lex Luger. So that they created his name right there.
Just right off of some kind of gun, right?
Yeah, so Lex Luger came out pretty good, and it's a good name, good wrestling name. And it was a bad booking. So Luger was used to beating the guys up, doing, being the top dog in the ring, even though he was a young guy in the business. He already had played pro football, college ball. He was an athlete, and had the beautiful body. But he never learned to work. He wasn't a good worker. He was okay worker. He just had that good body. Vince spent a fucking $1 million on him on the Lex Express. He got over to a certain extent, but he couldn't work that well. He worked enough to get by, obviously, but made big money. But it was a bad booking. They should have talked over, and Luger just freaked out. Brody wouldn't sell nothing because the kids hitting him. You know what I mean? Just listen to. I told Luger during the match, just listen to Brody, listen to Brody, listen to Brody, listen to Brody, and he couldn't. It was like talking to a wall because he couldn't hear a thing we were saying.
Right.
He was so excited and so intense. So it was a bad booking, and he got carried out ahead. He got spooked.
Because that was very early in his career as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a bad booking. He was handpicked all his opponents, and ripping his shirt off, beating the guys in 4 or 5 minutes, and to put him in the match with one of the most notorious wrestlers and a superstar, and been around the business 20 years already. It was a bad booking.
So fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
One of the other things that I found so interesting about you is you were El Gigante, Giant Gonzalez's personal right-hand man for several years.
For 3 years.
How do you land that gig? And I don't know. Is it a gift? Is it a curse? You know what I mean? It
was a gift, and being in the right place at the right time and knowing people. And I was Dusty's guy. He could rely on me. Dusty, the Giant Gonzales needed a personal guy to take him around, like Frenchie Bernard was Andre's guy. Took him around. So he came in. They first spotted the Giant. Because Ted Turner owned the Hawks, owned the Braves, owned CNN.
He played for the Hawks, I think, or something, right?
Yeah, well, they brought him in to play for the Hawks, so he had already played several years in European ball, so his knees were fucking already starting to give out. Plus, he was a Giant. The Giants don't last long. Their body starts to shut down after he died very young, just like Andre. God bless them both. So they needed somebody to take him around and be his personal guy. So, and I was Dusty's guy, and Dusty was the booker at TBS, and he said, Fonzie, we're going to put you at, you're making $100,000 a year, we're going to pay you an extra 25 plus give you a Cadillac every day and a little expensive. I said, really? Thank you, sir. So that's how I got the gig, the right place at the right time, and I was reliable.
Right.
And they could have deducted money from my salary because me and the Giant got along so well, and I loved him so much. We were together every day, 365 days a year. We had some days off. I would take him home to my house, and we have a fucking ball. We had a great time. So that's how I got the gig, and it was so I got so many perks from not Percocets. I got so many perks like good, like free meals or whatever,
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
So I would be in a place like I would be sitting in where Ted Turner sits with Jimmy Carter, watching the Braves game in that fucking presidential box, me and the Giant. And the camera would pan over and said, even the Giant comes out to watch the Braves. They wouldn't say, even Fonzie comes out to watch the Braves. They would say, even A for a Giant. We would do different movies, Thunder in Paradise with Hogan, game shows, fucking conventions, the big scene of conventions in Vegas, to sell ECW, all kind of things. Got extra pay, Cadillac. It was just a tremendous spot for me, and we became such good friends until the day he died. We were, I stayed in touch, and he was just a blessing.
You just mentioned Thunder in Paradise, and I just remembered another story you told me. Hulk Hogan forgets to pay you because you have to take
Did
the
I
Giant to
finish
set.
that story? Did I tell
Well, you did, but
did.
I think you should tell it on this. You told me, Giant Gonzales is kind of he's booked for the Thunder in Paradise pilot, and you go along with him, and you're supposed to get paid.
Yeah, so the story is Giant and I are in WWF going around the world doing stuff. So Hogan's shooting the pilot episode to see if they pick it up. And they did. So they're shooting the pilot, and they needed a big guy to help break out a guy from a paddy wagon. They're taking a guy to jail, a bad guy, and Giant comes and rips the doors off the paddy wagon and throws them and takes the bad guy, machine gun shooting, and the story goes on. So Hogan calls Vince and says, hey, Vince, can I have the Giant for 3 weeks? We're going to shoot this thing, and we really... The Giant says, oh, yeah. Vince says, yeah, you can have the Giant. Fonzie's got to come with him, and I'm not paying Fonzie because why should I pay him? Hogan said, I'll pay him, don't worry. So Vince says, hey, Fonzie, you and the Giant go down, you're going to do the movie. I said, okay, great. So we go down. So the Giant's in California, and I'm trying to... the Giant wants to sleep late, so he's going to catch the next flight out. I catch a real early flight, me and Jimmy Hart. So we drive in. We fly into Tampa. Me and Jimmy Hart going to go get a haircut. I got to get a Cadillac because my Cadillacs are free because of the Giant. Go get a brand new Cadillac at Avis. So me and Jimmy Hart go to get a haircut. We go have lunch. I'm on my way back to the airport 4 hours later to go pick up the Giant. And I can't be late. That's my guy. So I'm at the airport. I'm on my way to the airport, about 2 miles from the airport, and some fucking lady runs a fucking red light and T-bones me and Jimmy Hart, and I got my cousin in the back seat. So there's three of us in the car. The car is fucking disaster. Oh my God, we're all kind of banged up, and the police come, and the car is a disaster, and I got to pick up the Giant in 40 minutes, and I'm panicking and shit. And I tell the cop, we fill out all the paperwork. The lady was at fault. And I say, hey, can I drive the car? I can't wait for a record to come and, all that. Let me just flip-flop the car to the airport. It's only a half mile away, and I'll get another Cadillac. He says, okay, if you think you can make it. So Jimmy Hart, my cousin, get in the back seat of the Cadillac, all banged up real bad. The whole side of the car is all crushed up. So they said, Jimmy Hart says, hey, how he talks. Hey, Fonzie, hey, baby, man, you were crazy. You get in a car wreck. We're going to ride in the back seat because we don't trust you. You know how Jimmy Hart talks. So I don't do a good imitation, but how
Yeah.
So they jump in the back seat, and we're all laughing about the wreck and shit. So I can see the airport, where the red light. And I'm looking in the mirror, waiting for the red light to turn green. And I said, you guys ain't going to believe this. Bam, a lady hits us about 40 miles an hour from the back. She pushes us out into the middle of the intersection. Cars slamming on brakes. The cars... gets hit again, the headlights are hanging out, the flat tire. Oh my God, it's a disaster, and they can't believe it. So I don't even wait for the cops. I just leave the fucking scene, drive to the airport, which I shouldn't have done. So I'm driving the car to the airport with Jimmy Hart and my cousin, and the lady looks at us and shakes her head, and Fonzie, I don't even want to know what happened. The car's totaled out, gives us a new Cadillac, pick up the Giant, and go to shoot the movie. So the next day we start filming and shit, and we film for 3 weeks. And at the end of the 3 weeks, it's like they're gonna do the party, the cast party, and I haven't got paid anything. I don't know how much I'm going to get paid or nothing. And I don't ask. I don't care if I get paid or not. But of course I do.
Right.
But so at the last day of the shoot, Hogan comes up to me and says, "Oh, my son just got in a jet ski accident. It may be, we don't know how bad it is. On the water jet ski, you could be fucking mangled leg or something bad." So he rushes to the hospital and says, "Meet me at the airport tomorrow. We're both flying out. He's going to Japan and I'm going back to New York." He says, "Meet me at the airport at gate 15A and I'll bring you something." So I said, "Okay, Hogan," and I didn't, So the next day, I go to the airport and there's Hulk Hogan with a fucking blank check. Says, "Fonzie, I don't know how much to pay you, but here's a blank check. You just put whatever you want on there."
What are you thinking at that point?
Yeah.
I said, "Fuck, that's pretty generous." And I don't want to do the wrong thing, but I want to get paid. So I go to Jimmy Hart and say, "Jimmy, what should I put on here?" "I don't know. I'm not touching that thing." So I go to a couple different. "Oh, I'm not touching it." It was like a hot check, but a good one. It's Hulk Hogan's check. Terry Bollea and Linda Bollea. It's his personal check, not a.
Not like
a check from the cast.
Right.
Not movie. Yeah. So finally I said, "Jimmy, how about if I take the minimum pay that Vince would pay me per day, which was $300, the least I would make, if the house is good, I'd make $1,000. If the house is really bad, which was rare, I would make $300. I said, "How about if he pays me $300 a day?" "Okay, that's fine." So I made it out for $2,100, and Hogan says a month later when he gets the check back or whatever, he was real cool about it. But simple story, but that's how generous Hogan is. And we were both born on August 11th, so we celebrated our birthdays a couple times together. Great guy. We're both from Tampa. He broke in a little bit before me, and he's a hell of a guy.
I want to ask, because you were so close with Dusty, but you dealt with Vince a lot. What was that relationship like in comparison? Much more business oriented?
Yeah, it was corporate, but Vince had his, liked his guys. How I got to Vince, Giant and I were in WCW, and a guy named Jim Hurd, he was the manager of a Pizza Hut or a
Domino's or something.
A fucking big wig in the pizza business. Yeah. So somehow he's the CEO of fucking WCW. Now he wants to clean it up because they're spending $39 million a year. He wants to bring it down to $30 million a year. So he says, "Fonzie and the Giant, we want you to take a pay cut. Instead of paying him $350,000 and you $100, and take a little bit less money." So the Giant, he wasn't too happy with that. He says, "Fonzie, do you know anybody in WWF?" I said, "Yes, I do." I said, "I know J.J. Dillon. He's Vince McMahon's assistant booker, and he was an assistant booker to Dusty mostly the whole time I was in Florida, so I got along with JJ very well." So I called Vince's office. Say, "Vince, can I speak with JJ Dillon?" "Who's calling?" "Fonzie." I didn't expect to get right through, but JJ picks up and says, "Hey, Fonzie, hey, how you doing? We shoot the shit. What can I do for you?" I said, "Well, here's the situation. They want us to take a pay cut and so on and so on." He says, "Well, let me run it by Vince, and I'll see if he's interested." I said, "Well, JJ, we can go to Japan, or he can go back and play European basketball or some whatever. So we still got some options, but we'd like to come work for you." He said, "I'll run it by Vince." So 2 hours later, the phone rings. It's JJ Dillon. "Yeah, Vince is interested. He'd like to fly you guys up. So come have a meeting. And when can you guys come up?" "Well, whenever you want. We're taking a week off because the Giant had a spur removed, so we were at my house recuperating, so we weren't on the road for 4 or 5 days. So we flew up to Vince's office. Vince in the limo. We get off the airplane. I'm with the 8-foot guy. He's the tallest pro athlete on the planet at that time. Nobody else bigger. Nobody on the whole fucking planet. And me, Bill Alfonso, is his right-hand man, plus his best friend, plus his guy. We get off the plane. There's Spike Lee. Spike Lee, he's a big basketball fan.
Right.
You see him at all the games.
Right.
So he just looks at the fucking Giant walk by like he's amazed. Nobody sees a guy 8 foot tall.
Right.
And Spike Lee said, "Man, who is that?" I said, "Oh, that's Giant Gonzales. He gave me his card once, please call." So I took his card, and so we go to Vince's house, not his office, not a arena. We go right to Vince's house, and J.J. Dillon's there. So the limo driver would go up to and start talking to J.J. He said, J.J. says, Vince is on his way. Am I talking too fast?
No.
Vince is on his way. Apologize for being a little bit late, but, we'll shoot the shit. Fonzie, how you doing? Giant, you're so big. Oh, my God. They loved him because he was so fucking big.
Right.
It was like but he couldn't work a lick. Not his fault.
Right.
He could do some big man stuff, but he didn't get the concept. He didn't have the psychology.
Right.
It was awkward for him to work, but his size would overcome any.
And he's making good money.
Yeah.
Big money. And so in comes Vince, and Vince comes in and introduces himself. He's got a suit on with tennis shoes, like a purple suit, beautiful. Went to his house, and the Giant's amazed because he's from Argentina, fucking poor country.
Right.
He never made big money. Even though he played European basketball, they didn't pay him big money. They didn't pay him
No, they didn't have a ton of money. Yeah, absolutely.
So Vince says, Giant, we like you. We want to do this. We want to do that. He says, when can you start? Well, my contract. He said, don't even go back to WCW. Well, they owe me $60,000. And he said, JJ, write him a check for $60,000. That's your signing bonus. Fuck WCW. And the Giant says, Vince, I haven't been home for Christmas. This is like in, a month, November or something. He said, I haven't been home for Christmas in 3 years. He says, can I go home for Christmas and start in January sometime? And Vince says, oh, great. Go home and come back. How about starting on January 15th? Perfect.
You flipped your mic off there.
There you go. Sorry about that, Daddy. I turned the mic off.
So he goes back home for Christmas.
So he goes back home for Christmas, and he says, Fonzie, he says, I know you. You're kind of athletic. I've seen you on TV. I like you, Fonzie. He says, do you want to go home and start on the 15th? This is like November 1st or 2nd. I don't be off for 2 months.
Right.
I want some money, Daddy. So I said, no, sir. I'd like to start. JJ put him on the card, so he added me to the card. We were running 2 or 3, A team, B team, C team. One team was out in California, one team was in Texas, and one team was on the East Coast. There was 3 teams of guys, 3 shows per night. So he said, JJ, add him on. So JJ gave me a list and added me on like 20 dates. Boom, 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 MSJ. I said, JJ, where's MSJ? MSG. He said, Fonzie, that's Madison Square Garden, because we never worked the Gardens because WCW didn't go up there.
Right, yeah.
And Florida didn't go up there.
More down
but Madison
south,
Square is one of the most famous arenas on the planet. Would you agree?
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said, MSG, where's that? He said, Fonzie, that's Madison Square. Boom. So I was fucking thrilled. And that's how we got into WWF with a phone call to J.J. Dillon. And that I was, I had talent to back up. And I'd been in the business for a long time. And I had the tallest athlete in the world, and Vince loved him and liked me somewhat. He didn't really know me, just seen me a few times. He put me over, oh, you're athletic and this and that. And he used to comment during the 3 years I was there, almost 3 years, I used to take extra big bumps and do all kind of shit to get more recognition. The other guys wouldn't dress nice.
Right.
I would dress beautiful. Hey, everybody dress like Fonzie, all you referees. I got heat with all the refs for making them dress nice. They didn't like that because they were wearing Zubas and jeans and shit. I was wearing suits and the Rolex and Louis Vuitton and shit. That's how you got to be. You're working for the biggest company on the planet. You got to look the part.
Right.
Because I'm not Hulk Hogan. I'd go into a Marriott. Can I help you? Yeah, I have a room. I'm in jeans and a nice shirt, polo shirt. Yeah, wait a minute. If I walk in with a Rolex, a suit, a Louis, nice. Yes, sir. Can we help you? Right away.
Right.
Appearances, everything. So.
So that's how you got into the WWF. How do you get into ECW from there?
Ooh, okay, Daddy. I'm talking 2 miles a minute, Daddy. I want to not drag these stories out, but I want to.
No, they're.
I think I got about 67 stories, so I can do about 4 or 5 of these podcasts. Okay, okay.
You have way more
I'm
than
Gucci.
I think we're gonna be okay,
Daddy.
yeah.
So, how I got into ECW? Now, the business at the end of '94 start taking a dip in attendance, and the business went down, say 20%, whatever it was. I'm not
Right.
sure the percentage, but it went down,
And especially went down in 95.
big time. So Vince staff, not Vince, said to me, well, we're going to take a cut. We're going to cut. And I was one of the last referees they hired. So he says, we like you, Fonzie, but we're cleaning a little bit, and we're not going to have the water cooler over here. We're going to get rid of some people. More diplomatic than that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you were on the last one, so we're going to have to let you go. But if business picks up, we're going to use you again. And when we come to Florida, we'll always use you. So you're still involved, but you're not just full time.
Right.
I said, well, what am I going to say? Fuck you. I said, thank you very much. And then I said, Vince, when I seen Vince at Monday Night Raw, I said, Vince, they let me go without any notice. They said I finished up in 2 days. They give me a time to get my shit together. He said, what? They did that to you, Fonzie? Oh, no. He gave the guy who gave me my notice in 2 days, told me on a Monday that I'm finishing on a Wednesday. That's not Gucci.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to have a little.
You need some time, at least a couple weeks.
And, it's a shot. So Vince said, don't worry, Fonzie. He gave me a $10,000 umbrella departure thing.
Like a severance package.
And made sure that I was on every show in Florida, and if business picked back up, they would use me. So I was very grateful, and I always talk good about Vince. He's one of the greatest promoters ever. The people who talk bad about Vince, they're the ones who got fired for failing drug tests, for something they got fired. Then they talk shit about Vince. But not me. I'll put Vince over because he treated me like a fucking king.
Right. You're a free agent, essentially.
So now I go home. Now this is actually the first time I've had off in like maybe
20 years.
Pretty damn close to it,
right.
I mean, working full time, not just on weekends. I mean, I was working full time. You don't have no days off because if you take a day off,
someone's going to take your spot.
Exactly. So I'm on the tractor. I'm cutting the fucking grass. I got 10 orange trees. I'm having a good time. 2 weeks go by, and the phone rings. It's Paul Heyman. I had worked for Paul Heyman, with Paul Heyman, and he came down with a guy named Tombstone in Florida. He came down with a T-shirt, hose in his fucking jeans, and a pair of Converse, and he just tagged along like I did in Texas with the Cuban Assassin. Trying to break into business and stuff. And I helped. And so Tombstone got his notice. He was going to finish up. They had been there all summer. And Paul Heyman said, hey, fine. I was assistant booker. Bob Roop was the booker. Dusty had already went to WCW. And Paul Heyman says, Fonzie, you think I can go to the ring? We're finishing up in 2 weeks and we're going to go home. And I said, well, you can't go to the ring in a T-shirt and fucking holy pants and a fucking pair of Converse. You got money to buy a suit? I didn't know his father was a fucking big-time lawyer, lived in Scarsdale, the most expensive real estate on the planet. It had money. So he said, yeah, I can. So he came back with a fucking beautiful suit and a fucking cell phone, not a cell phone, a phone, like a cordless phone in the house, like a gimmick, So, and then Tombstone was working with Scott Hall, and we press slammed Paul Heyman for 2 weeks, and they left the territory, and, God bless them. So as time goes by, I said, damn, Paul Heyman, look at him. He's a big star in AWA for Vern Gagne. Then I go to WCW, and Paul Heyman's a big star there. He's, the gimmick and all that. So, we love Paul. He's my best friend. He loves me. We love each other. So then I go to WWF, and I don't see Paul but once or twice, like at Studio 54. It wasn't Studio 54, but at a club in New York.
New York, yeah.
Fonzie, oh, my God. So I'm off. I just got released from WWF, and I get the phone call. It's Paul Heyman. He said, hey, Fonzie, how you doing? He said, you just left WWF. I said, yeah. He says, well, look, I got this company called ECW. I said, what the fuck's the ECW? I've never worked for an indie company or any. I was mainstream, lucky enough to be mainstream. I was very blessed and very lucky to have a full-time job. So he says, I have this idea. I want you to come up. You're still on Raw. Because they tape 3 weeks. They tape 2 or 3 weeks. They do one live show, and they can two Monday,
weeks.
Tuesday, and Wednesday. They can 2 more shows. So it's boom, boom, boom. So I was still on TV. He said, I'd like to bring you in, and we're going to do this thing where you come in with your bow tie, and you're fucking from the State Athletic Commission, you're WWF, and they're going to know who you are, and you want to anti-violence, stop the violence. We're all about violence and sex and drugs and rock and roll. I said, okay, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I went in there, the gimmick, Shane Douglas brought me in to do something, and so I stopped all kind of matches and started causing pandemonium, and fucking I had so much heat because I would spoil. There was a tie-paid death match between Ian Rotten and Axel Rotten. These people, the hardcore fans, have been waiting months They dip their hands
in glass,
and
in the glass,
glue
yeah.
and dip it in glass, and they fight each other and the big juice and all that. So they've been having this match planned for months. So the first little sign, like that juice the kid just got up the elbow,
we were talking about out there.
over his eye out there. I stopped the match. Said, "Dude, he can't do the lack of vision in his eye." I stopped. The people wanted to fucking kill me. So. 911 was famous for the choke slam, so I banned the choke slam. No more choke slams, and the people wanted to see him choke slam Fonzie. And so finally at the end, he choke slammed me, boom, boom, boom. I was supposed to be there 4 weeks and split.
Yeah.
But the gimmick kind of got over, and Paulie did this and that and put me with Taz. And then just evolved.
And it blew up from there.
Blew up from there. I was there 5 years, made tremendous money for working Friday and Saturday. I was blessed again, and my gimmick got over, and thank God Paul Heyman walked me through, because I couldn't really do a promo. I've been a referee for 20 years. I didn't do a lot of promos.
Right.
Once in a while, I would, do a little thing. Hey, over the top rope, a pantomime, But, I was having a hard time doing promos, and Tommy Dreamer says, "Fonzie, you're killing us. You're doing one promo 18 times. Come on." He said, "Just treat it like a shoot. Treat it like it's real." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, say what you see." I said, "Okay." And then after that day, it was one take Fonzie. They created a monster, and the gimmick got over. They put me with Taz, Van Dam, and Sabu, and I stayed 21 pay-per-views, and I had a top spot and made $50,000 a year working weekends and having a great time. It's actually my favorite company to work for. Financially, it was good, but I had the best time. We were creating something. I was on the ground floor in this cult following type thing. You guys know ECW.
Right.
It was great.
One of the most memorable things from your ECW run is the match.
I beat Beulah's ass?
It's the match with Beulah.
We were just talking about that earlier today.
So here's the dope on that. I'll make it this. Let's do this last story, and then we'll save some, because I got the alligator story. I got the story where Barry Windham got shot. I got the story where all kind of good stories. But the last story is with the Beulah. So WCW and WWF were plucking our talent. They had took the Dudley Boys, they had took Taz, they had took Mike Awesome, they had took this guy, Sandman, that guy. So now they think that I was negotiating behind Paul Heyman's back, which I wasn't. I didn't know anything about it, but Sabu was negotiating with Kevin Sullivan in WCW, because Kevin Sullivan had the book in WCW. They were negotiating a contract, $250 first year, $350 second year, $450, and they said, "Sabu, who do you want to manage you?" So, Fonzie, of course. I didn't know he was even talking to me, but I'm damn sure going to go if they're,
if they're going to pay
make that kind of money. But I was going to make good money, not Sabu money, but make maybe half of that would have been tremendous money.
More than ECW money.
More than fucking any money I've ever made, because that would have been a different position. Referee makes $100,000 a year there. A manager makes middle pay, could have been 200, 250, whatever. So it would be tremendous. So I didn't know this. So Paul Heyman got wind. You know how we tell a wrestler telegraph.
Right.
You can't keep a secret like that. So I didn't know this. I'm telling you this after I found out way later. So they thought I was negotiating with Sabu. Sabu had already flown to TBS and went to Center Street, Peach Street and all that. And I didn't know any of this. So they thought I was in cahoots with the scandal. And I wasn't. I didn't know anything.
Didn't it turn out to be Todd Gordon, maybe?
No, Todd Gordon helped some guys after the fact. After they left, he helped guys after when they went to WCW. He helped refine their contract, so they already had left.
Okay,
and he was out. Paul Heyman pushed Todd Gordon out somehow, but Todd Gordon wanted to get out anyway because he was spending a lot of money and not making money back. But and Paul thought he could do it by himself, and which he did. He did really good, and I love Paul Heyman. So now. They think I was all a part of that, and I wasn't. So they're going to put me again with Fonzie and Beulah in a match. Now, after the match, Paul Heyman was going to fire me, and I didn't even know this. I didn't know I was going to get fired after the match.
So was the idea is he was going to embarrass you by having you,
put Beulah over.
Yeah, put Beulah over.
I was a big star,
and then he was going to fire you after that.
Exactly. That's what I think.
Right.
Now it may be a little different. Paul Heyman may have a different story, but I don't know. But Paul was a dear friend of mine, and that was the right thing to do in his eyes. He was business. He couldn't let, he had to make an example out of somebody and make it out of Fonzie. It just happened to be me.
Yeah.
No personal. It was just business. Like the Godfather, it's just business. so I didn't know any of this. So I had the match I was gonna have the match with Beulah, and we're two non-wrestlers. She's a fucking centerfold, penthouse, adult movie star, and I'm a referee that hasn't had too many matches or too many fights in the ring. And how the fuck are we gonna pull this off in front of the smart marks, in front of ECW, and say, "Who you fucked up? You fucked up. How are we going to entertain these fucking people?" And so we went over a match before in the dressing room, and then we went out to the ring and did a couple of spots and shit. All right, Daddy, John is leaving. He's got other duties, Daddy, so I'm going to finish up this story, and I'm going to have to tell him again later. So, you know what I mean? But anyway, so...
He's got to go talk to your buddy Raven.
Raven's here? Hey,
yeah.
Raven, Daddy, that's my boy, Raven. Woo, Raven. So... we have the match.
Yeah.
And before the match, I had a little bit of a headache, so I had taken a couple of aspirin, and the headache didn't go away. I was just nervous and shit. A lot of tenseness, a lot of pressure that night. It's like walking out in front of Madison Square Gardens. You know what I mean? You get butterflies and shit. I'm going to go have this match in front of these hardcore wrestling fans. If I fucked up, they're going to say, "And you fucked up." If it was a shit, they would have let me know. It might have ruined my career. But fortunately, so I ended up taking 6 or 8 aspirin because I had this tremendous headache. So, an hour or two before the match. And the aspirin thins out your blood. And I didn't know I was going to get busted open, really. So, I'm off. My blood's thin as hell. I'm on the aspirin. I go to the fucking ring. We have this fucking match. At the beginning of the match, Daddy... Oh, there's my boy Raven. Hey, bet it up, Daddy.
There he is.
Bet it up, Daddy. Sandman's lips are turning blue.
Oh, my God. I'll tell that story one day. This is a great story. His lips are turning blue. Fuck. Great. So we end up like in the first fucking 30 seconds of the match, Beulah hits me with his 10 sheet, and I get sliced way fucking big, cuts arteries, tendons, my head's numb. I almost bleed to fucking death, really, literally. But so this happened 30 seconds into the match, and I was bleeding, and Beulah said, "Oh my God," the gash on my head was like a 1/2 inch wide, 2 inches long. I was bleeding. Every time my heart would pump, I would shoot out blood 10 feet. It was crazy. Hey, Raven, hold the phone, Daddy. I'm going to put Raven over for a second. Johnny Polo, Raven. I tried to get him stretched in 1983, all that, but we became really good friends, and I love her. He's a lifelong friend, Daddy.
You were there when I detoxed.
I took it. If Raven said, "Hey, Fonzie, can you help me take me to detox in West Palm Beach?" "Oh, yeah, Daddy." So fucking it was great. So we've been through a lot together. Good and no bad. All good.
No bad, all good.
All good, Daddy. And
Bet
we
it
were
up, Daddy.
superstars in WCW, WWF,
We were
ECW.
there. We were together when Sandman OD'd and his lips
my
turned
God.
blue. We're driving down the road, and all of a sudden, Fonzie goes, "Hey, bet it up, Daddy! Sandman's lips are turning blue."
Sandman had injected this fucking massive narcotic pill, thinking it was a normal pill.
No, I told him it was too big a dose for
Yeah,
him.
he said, "Oh, I'm good for it." He had to drink a case of beer already. He's all fucked up already.
Yeah, well, so so I said, "You're not ready for that big a dose," and so he's like, "Oh, yes, I am." And so he took it, and he OD'd, and then we had long story short, we had to pull up, we had to call 911. We pulled off the highway to meet 911. Not the wrestler, the
actual 911.
And the cops came because on the phone call.
Before that, we stopped there was a hotel across the street where we were supposed to meet him, and
To
we
get rid of all the
threw all the
drugs.
bags out with all the drugs. And little Guido was in the back, and when we pulled all the bags out, he went flying out and took a face bump on the ground.
It was great. You had to be there to understand the story. So we tell the 911, "Hey, a wrestler, we think he's ODing." So they send a squad of police thinking there was a big wrestling in the parking lot for guys fighting, not
Not like an actual pro wrestler.
No, the guys fighting in a beer brawl or whatever. So they send all the fucking cops. Thank God the cops are cool. And they say, "Oh, there's Raven and the blonde hair." So yeah, my friend had a bump on his head and he took some narcotic and he might have took too much.
They're like, yeah, so what'd he take? We're like, oh, we don't know. They're like, it's really gonna help us save him. Are we gonna get in trouble? No. Oh, he took OxyContin. He shot up OxyContin.
He banged it. So
Yeah.
So they take Sandman to the hospital.
Actually, the true story is they go, what'd he take? And they're like, and we're like, he took OxyContin, but don't tell the cops. They're like, it's not. Don't worry about it. They're like, it's cool.
So they take Sandman he's dead, almost dead. He can't breathe. They fucking survive. They give him the fucking shot in the heart to fucking make him better shot.
Yeah, that's what he claims. They didn't actually give him a shot in the heart.
They didn't?
No, they didn't.
They give him in the nose. They give him a little spray.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. But
it was the worst.
But Sandman claims they gave him the hypodermic in the heart.
like a Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Right?
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, he's dramatic, Sandman. So
he likes to embellish.
But he got mad at us for calling the cops. He said, "Man, you ruined my high." I said, "Brother, your lips are fucking turning blue, Daddy. Fuck, you were."
What a high!
Dead.
You were dead.
This is a true story.
You must have seen the white light, but the white light was just cocaine.
See, we were going to wind it down, but then Raven sat down with us. We can't wind it down now, Daddy.
I gotta start my seminar. But,
well, I guess that's true too.
Yeah, I gotta start this. What time does the seminar start?
What?
5 minutes ago, probably.
All right,
It starts at 1. What time
all
is
right.
that?
Well, let me do the seminar so
109.
then I can get back to my nap.
Okay,
All right, sounds good.
Bet it up, Daddy.
I love you, brother.
You too, Fonzie.
Ooh, that
Thanks,
was Raven live and in person. Daddy's got to go do a seminar.
Just jumped in right before that seminar.
Yeah, it was
There you go.
perfect, right?
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
in
you can't
AIW.
predict what's going to happen in AIW, brother. It's all hardcore. It's fucking bruising and brawling and fucking blood and guts and Raven and Fonzie and Justice and West and a bunch of guys. John, what a fucking crew here. I am so thrilled to be here. It's fucking like great.
Fonzie, I want to tie this up with one thing because we talked about earlier, and a nice little lesson for people trying to get involved in wrestling and people in life in general. You have had the success that you have had largely too because your personal thing is just be nice to everybody, right? Like just be a good person.
I think that's a general rule in life.
Yeah.
And it applies to if you're a doctor, be nice there. If you're a lawyer, you got to be good because karma comes around, and wrestling especially, you know what I mean? You got to be humble. You got to put everybody over, from the guy who puts up the ring to the first matches to the main event. So if I treated like the first, the second, third match, if I didn't put them over, I've seen this happen hundreds of times. Guys get a big head, they're in the main event, they won't talk to the first match, the second match, they think they're better than them. That's bullshit. Everybody's fucking equal, Daddy, and you better treat everybody good. That brings longevity. And that's what's got me by, I'm well liked in the business by a lot of my peers, and I'm fan friendly. I love my fans. I love the people who watch wrestling and listen to the podcast. If it wasn't for them, you've heard this before, we wouldn't be nowhere.
Well,
so I'm appreciative to everybody.
And I say that and I bring that up because in case anybody really needed an example of that, you met Paul Heyman before he's Paul Heyman. You were nice to him. Fonzie comes around. It just ends up Fonzie needs a job. You
I
didn't
got a
even know.
similar story with,
And he
I'm gonna
calls you.
save to the next one for the next podcast we do. Hopefully, I can do part 1, part 8, part B. Bam Bam Bigelow went through the same thing with Bam Bam. A similar story with Paul Heyman. The guy who just left us, Raven,
Yeah.
a very similar story with Raven too. So you never know. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
never know.
So there you go. If you were somebody that's training to be a wrestler, or you are a wrestler and you're listening to
And I'm
this,
not trying to buy
treat
my way to
everybody-
heaven by taking
No,
the
no.
old lady across the street if
But
she's
just
lying,
treat
but,
everybody with some sort of respect.
Yeah.
Be nice to them.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm cool, Daddy.
Well, there you go. Well, we're going to wrap it up with that because we can go on and on, but we got a show to get to here, folks. So for John Thorne, for Raven, and for the daddy himself, Bill Alfonso Fonzie, my name's Steve Guy. We'll talk to you next week right here on The Card is Going to Change.
Super, Daddy.